Good evening. My name is Ben Geller. I've been doing the Passover Seder at the Fountains for several years, and I'm here tonight to try to make this particular Passover a little bit more traditional than what our year and what Passover is, what's happening in Passover today. I want to wish everybody a happy Passover, a Zis and Pesach, a good Yontif, and a Chag Sameach. You know, we're living the Bible in our own times, it seems. We'll shortly be talking about the 10 plagues that allowed the Jews to leave Egypt into the desert, into the Promised Land over 3,000 years ago. Well, today we have an 11th plague that we all know about, the coronavirus. The first 10 plagues, that allowed the Jews to leave Egypt and go to Israel. This plague, it's keeping us in our homes. There's another thing that came to my mind, is that by the time we're finished with this coronavirus plague, we'll have rivaled the story of Noah and the ark, who was 40 days and 40 nights of rain. Well, we're probably going to be confined to our homes 40 days and 40 nights. So as I said, we're reliving the Bible even in our own time. Passover is the most widely observed of all the Jewish holidays. Much more so than Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. Passover is that family holiday that everybody got together with. We saw our aunts, our uncles, our cousins. And even though we may be by ourselves or maybe with another couple, and if you're with another couple tonight, you better have long arms for social distancing. It's a good time to remember those Passovers when we visited our aunts and uncles and saw our cousins, and remember them the way they were, the way we were. Remember getting stuck in the traffic, going to Long Island, going to New Jersey, going to wherever, promising yourself, I'm never going to do this again next year. Only next year we did the same thing. Remember your father or your grandfather who would stand and do the davening while everybody just wondered, so when is this going to end and when are we going to eat? This is a good time to reflect back on Passovers that were and share it with each other, because this particular Passover will surely become a story in the years to come, and God willing, next year and the years to come, we can all be here at the fountains again, remembering Passover 2020, corresponding to 5,780. The story of Passover, as we know, is recited from the Haggadah. The Haggadah means to tell the story of our liberation from Egypt into the desert, into the Promised Land. It is one of our most ancient liturgical works, the Haggadah, and it also teaches us that you should tell your son today, your children, your sons and daughters, that it's because of what God did for me when I came forth out of Egypt, imagining as if we were standing at Mount Sinai getting the 10 Commandments, if we were in the desert, okay? And again, reflecting on the coronavirus, we are in our homes, all of us imagining what would be if we were in the environment of the fountains or with our friends. So the central feature of the Seder is the Seder plate on the table. We don't have that here today, but I'll describe it to you. The Seder plate forms a centerpiece of every table, and it contains appropriate places for the various symbols to be used at the Seder. On your Seder plate, if you have one, will be the roasted bone, stands for the Karban Pesach, the Paschal lamb, which our ancestors offered up in honor of the holiday. The roasted egg stands for the Chagigah, or special festival offering, which was offered on all holidays. The bitter herbs stands for the bitter life our ancestors suffered when they were slaves in Egypt. The charosis stands for the mortar with which our ancestors were forced to make bricks in building cities and pyramids for Pharaoh. The karpas is part of a salad which was used at all ancient banquets, as we do today at all formal meals. It is also a symbol of the coming of spring and reminds us that life means constant growth. We use either parsley, celery, lettuce, onion, or potatoes, and we thus give thanks to God, who is the creator of the fruit of the earth. A lot of Seder tables today are also adding other features that bring Judaism and a recognition of other people into focus. One of my favorite things that Seder plates are adding today is an orange. And an orange is a symbol of egalitarianism. When you peel the orange, you see that the orange consists of different sections, and each one of those sections represents a type of Judaism, a type of person who all together make up the orange. So that's for the Orthodox and the Reform and the Conservative and the Reconstructionist and the gay and the lesbian and the Jew who has no place to go and the downtrodden. That's the purpose of the orange, and originally that was started in the 70s by Professor Susanna Heschel, who heard of a rabbi at the time where conservative Judaism was involved in egalitarianism between men and women being counted in the minyan. And this rabbi said a woman belongs in the minyan like an orange belongs on the Seder plate, hence the orange on the Seder plate. It's been updated by Professor Heschel to include all forms of Jews as an egalitarian tradition. Another thing that's going on Seder plates is a banana. And believe it or not, this banana concept only goes back to 2015, when apparently a Syrian family fleeing all the trouble in Syria, trying to get to a land of freedom, a father, a mother, and 2 children. And the mother and the 3-year-old died along the way. And as the story goes, this father had bought a banana every day and shared it with the 2 sons. And the banana represents the freedom that this family was trying to get in the face of that today there are 45 million refugees throughout the world seeking freedom and a new life elsewhere. Another thing that people are putting on their Seder plates is a pineapple. Pineapple has always been a sign of welcome for those cultures, Hawaii, who feature the pineapple. It's a symbol of hospitality to the millions of refugees, again, we're talking refugees, who are crossing through danger and into unknown lands. There are many other things that people are putting on their Seder plates aside from the traditional, but I just wanted you to know that Judaism and families are updating things to put on their Seder plates to bring it more into focus with today's traditions. Other things that are on your Seder table, of course, are the 3 matzahs. They stand for the loaves of bread, which we always use on Shabbat and Yontif, plus an additional one for the lechem, the three classes of Jews, the Kohanim, the Levites, and the Israelites. These three matzahs are placed separately in special matzah covers or in folds of an ordinary napkin. We also, of course, have wine on the table. According to Jewish tradition, every Jew must have no less than 4 cups of wine at the Seder. Where you are now, you're home already, you can have as much as you want, I'm sure, tonight. But 4 cups are used because of the 4 promises of deliverances mentioned in the Bible. Hotzeti, I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. Hitzalti, I will deliver you from their bondage. Ga'alti, I will redeem you with an outstretched arm. Lakachti, I will take you to me for a people. These 4 promises account also for the 4 questions and the 4 sons spoken of in the Haggadah. I want to point out that in modern Haggadahs, the 4 sons are 4 children because boys and girls are equal in today's Jewish world, or should be. There's also the salt water. This is used for dipping the karpas. Salt was used with all the sacrifices and was used with most Jewish rituals. Today it is put on the bread when we recite the Hamotzi. There's the cup of wine for Elijah. Elijah indicates the prophet of welcoming other Jews, other people who have nowhere to go, and we would open the door to let Elijah in and welcome other Jews to our Seder, other people to our Seder. Well, tonight, we're all by ourselves, maybe with another couple. A lot of people today also include a second cup of wine for Miriam to also show the egalitarian nature of our tradition and the importance of Miriam in our culture. My wife Susan will now kindle the lights for Passover. These candles, which will bring light and brightness, are a symbol of joy, faith, and hope. You're going to say the blessing as you do it. Say it out loud so everybody could hear.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedeshanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Yom Tov.
Amen. Amen. Well, also, since this is a special holiday, all of us will do Shehechianu. We who are here, even though we're not with our family, maybe on Zoom, maybe on FaceTime, it's still that we're thankful for being here for this holiday. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Blessed art thou, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has kept us alive and has sustained us and enabled us to reach this season. The wine that is on your tables will do Kiddush now. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bocha banu mikol am v'romamanu mikol ason v'kishanu b'mitzvotav v'titan lanu Adonai Eloheinu b'ahava moadim l'simcha chagim uzmanim l'sason et yom chag hamazot hazeh zeman cherutenu mikra kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim. Ivanu v'achata v'yotanu kidashta mikol ha'amin moadei kashecha v'simcha u'sason hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh Yisrael v'hazmanim. Okay, at this point, I'm supposed to wash my hands. Boy, have we washed our hands so much these days. Okay? But there's no food, It's sort of make-believe, and so in this case, I'll imagine that I'm washing my hands, but believe me, I know how to wash my hands now. If we're doing the Seder, everybody now take up the carpus, dip it in salt water, and say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Borei peri Adama. There are some families who will use for Adama potato, right?
Or egg.
Or eggs, potato. One of the other things on the Seder plate, potato-wise, represents the Ethiopian Jews who migrated to Israel, and when they came to Israel, they were so undernourished, so malnourished, they couldn't eat anything, and they were fed potatoes to try to get them up to a point where they could eat regular food. Well, today, in commemoration of that, there are many families also putting a potato on their Seder plates. I hope that we're okay with the carpus. We'll go into dividing the matzah. You take a middle matzah, you break it in two, you leave one half on the plate, and we hide the other half for the afikomen. The afikomen is hidden and distributed at the end to arouse interest in the children, and we reward the child who finds the afikomen. I don't know how many people will be doing afikomen this year. I didn't find it yourself, which reminds me of something I just read on Facebook, which I thought was very, very funny, is that somebody was so bored they went outside their house and they knocked on their own door, and then they came inside and they said, "Who is it?" So that's sort of like the afikomen today. You're going to hide it and find it yourself. All right. I'm supposed to raise the Seder plate in your house. Behold, this is the bread of affliction which our ancestors ate in the land of Egypt. Let all who are hungry come and eat. Let all who are in need come and celebrate the Passover with us. This year we are here in a free land, and our people has a home in Israel. May next year find us all striving to make our land more secure and the home of our people in Israel more firmly established. Well, Israel is there, and Israel is experiencing the same thing that we are experiencing in the United States and throughout the world. And I know that in Israel, where large seders is the tradition, the government has limited the seders to no more than 10 people, and I wonder how many seders of 10 people are in Israel. So my hope going in to the doing of this Seder is that we will all be secure now and next year to celebrate Passover with the people that we usually do in a secure setting and in the land of freedom that has always been the United States. This brings us to the part of the Seder, which is the 4 questions. Now, we all know that it's really 1 question and 4 answers, but the ability to question, the Manish Tanah, the ability to question is the perfect example of what freedom is all about. To be able to question without fear is what freedom is all about. So I will do my version of the Manish Tanah that Barbara Olaf usually does, but it's just Susan and I who are here right now. Manish Tanah halayla hazeh mikol halaylot shebechol halaylot anu ochlim chametzu matzah halayla hazeh kulo matzah shebechol halaylot anu ochlim she'ayir akod halayla hazeh moror. Shebechol halelot einanu matbilin, afilu pa'am echad, halayla hazeh shetei pe'amim. Shebechol halelot anu ochlin, ben yoshvim uvein misubim, halayla hazeh kulanu misubim. It's been a long time since I've done the 4 questions. Where are Medvedev's grandchildren when I need them? Okay, so now we do the story of Passover that Susan and I will do section apart. If you have this old Passover Haggadah that you took from the fountains, this is what I'm using. You're going to be getting a different Haggadah, but I'm sure it's very, very similar. So the story of Passover. We were slaves unto Pharaoh in Egypt, and the Lord our God brought us forth with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. It is therefore our duty from year to year to celebrate this event and to tell the story of the Exodus over and over again. Indeed, to dwell at length on it is a real mitzvah. For the more we talk about it, the better will we understand what a terrible thing slavery is, and we shall then try harder to help achieve freedom for ourselves, for our people, and for men everywhere.
Our Jewish way of life is based on a strong faith in God. He brought us out of Egypt. He watched over us as through the many centuries of our history. Yes, we recall God's promise to our people that no matter how many wicked tyrants may arise, He will save us from their hands.
And God knows that today the world is full of other wicked tyrants. So history as a way of repeating itself. There is still anti-Semitism. There are religious people contending that the fault of the virus is the fault of the Jews. It will never stop. It wasn't any different than World War II, World War I. It will never stop. So we're living history in our own time. Let us return now to the story of our ancestors in Egypt. It began when Joseph became the viceroy of Egypt and saved the land from a great famine. He brought his father Jacob and his brothers to live with him, 70 in all. After Joseph's death, there arose a Pharaoh who ignored all that Joseph had done. He oppressed and enslaved the Israelites and forced upon them hard labor under harsh taskmasters.
But God did not forget our ancestors, nor did He forsake them in their time of trouble. He sent them Moses, our great leader, lawgiver, and liberator, who led them out of Egypt.
Okay? I'll do a quick version that, again, Barbara would have done of Go Down Moses. We all know the song from school. You can do it yourself on Zoom. When Israel was in Egypt land, let my people go. Oppressed so hard they could not stand. Let my people go. That's enough. That's enough of my voice. But go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell old Pharaoh, let my people go. You can continue. Turn me off for a while. Turn me back on. Okay. Moses did not find his task a simple one. Time and again he appeared before Pharaoh demanding, let my people go. Plagues were brought upon the Egyptians, and after each plague, Pharaoh promised to liberate the Israelites. But each time he changed his mind. It was only after the 10th plague that Pharaoh sent our people out of Egypt. And here we are, as I said today, the 11th plague that are keeping us in our homes. The 10 plagues. It's traditional that as we recite the plagues, we dip our pinky in the glass of wine in front of us and take the drop on our pinky and let it fall into the plate next to it. The reason for this, I'm told, is that even in a time of joyous celebration such as Passover, we diminish our wine by the drop because other people, in order to set us free, other people suffered, and so we diminish ourselves. That's the tradition that I have been taught. So I will say it in Hebrew, and Susan will say it in English. Dam,
blood,
Tzifardea,
frogs,
Kinim,
gnats,
Arov,
fly swarms,
Dever,
cattle disease,
Shechin,
boils,
Barad,
hail,
Arbe,
locust,
Cheshech,
darkness,
Makat Bekorot.
slaying of the firstborn.
You know, this year in Africa, locusts, there were swarms of locusts. A plague again that Africa had in our own time, the Arbe. We remember seeing it on the news not so long ago. So the Bible and the Haggadah does relive itself. I just said the Haggadah. I want to divert for 1 second into another Haggadah. Last year, looking to do research for the Seder, I bought a couple of Haggadahs, and one of which is supposed to be the Mrs. Maisel Haggadah. A lot of us are watching Mrs. Maisel on Netflix, and what it turned out to be was the Mrs. Maisel Haggadah was nothing more than the traditional Maxwell House Haggadah with a picture or two of what's supposed to be Mrs. Maisel. So I got this Haggadah, and it's just like the old Maxwell House Haggadah, which prompted me this year to do some research on, so what's the story on the Maxwell House Haggadah? The Maxwell House Haggadah goes back to the early 1920s in our country, when a lot of Jewish merchants were not selling coffee during Passover because they thought that the coffee bean was a legume, a bean, and among the Ashkenazi Jews, beans were not allowed for Passover, was not kosher for Passover. Well, along comes this reporter for the Jewish Daily Forward, who convinces Maxwell House, which at that time Maxwell House was based in Nashville, Tennessee, of all places, to convince Maxwell House to do this Haggadah as a way of encouraging Jews to buy coffee. Well, there are 55 million Maxwell House Haggadahs printed since 1932. And until recently, they've all been the same, with all the same stories. Today, they are egalitarian for the most part. But the Maxwell House Haggadah came about in order to promote the selling of coffee during Passover, and it succeeded. And it also succeeded in me buying the Mrs. Maisel Haggadah. Today, 4 years ago, the Jewish assemblies, I believe the conservative one, eliminated the division between what was kosher for Passover and what was not. That's called kitniot. Kitniot, that's not kosher for Passover, and that's beans and rice. And that's been the policy, the tradition, since the 1200s. Well, here we are 800 years later, and now beans and rice And if coffee wasn't kosher in the first place, which it was, it certainly is now. And so at the end, everybody can enjoy their cup of Maxwell House Good to the last drop. And if you still have Maxwell House of Gutters around, we all do, it's no different today than it was in 1932. Okay, going back to the plays. May the recitation of these plays remind us that as Egypt was destroyed because it showed no concern for human beings, so any nation that mistreats its people and does not care about human suffering must eventually be destroyed. No nation that fails to live in righteousness and in justice can long endure.
Now let us give thanks for our deliverance from Egypt and express our gratitude to God for the many kindnesses that he has bestowed upon us.
Susan will do the two stanzas of Dayenu that she always did at our Seders, also probably the only two stanzas of Dayenu that she knows, but go ahead, Susan.
Ilu hotzi hotzianu mi Mitzrayim hotzianu Dayenu 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 Ilu natan lanu et haTorah natan lanu Dayenu Dayenu.
And with all due respect to her voice, I also say Dayenu. Thank you. The three most important symbols of the Seder are the Paschal lamb, the matzah, and the maror. Rabbi Gamliel, who lived over 1,800 years ago and who was the religious leader of his day, used to say, "He who does not explain these three symbols on Seder night has not done his duty." I digress again. Remember I just said Rabbi Gamliel. So remember I said tell stories. Do you remember going around the table and who got the part when we read it around the table of the rabbis and couldn't pronounce their name? And we laughed at our cousin, our brother, our sister who got stuck with that part. These are the stories that we talk about. Remember the part in the Seder that we talk about the four sons, okay? The wise one, the wicked one, the simple one, the one who doesn't know how to ask. So I like an interpretation very much that the four sons, the four children, is a composite of each one of us. Aren't we all sometimes wise? Aren't we all also sometimes wicked, stupid, uncaring, don't know what to say at a certain time? So I like that very, very much, and like to point it out in recent years about the four children at the Seder table. But I remember so much very well going around the Seder and who got the role of the simple son. And you would try to jockey positions if you could read ahead that you didn't want it to be you, or you got up to leave the room so it was somebody else's. All of these things are memories that I have from Seders long ago. Okay, back to the three most important symbols. Raise the Seder plate. The roasted bone is a reminder of the Paschal lamb which our ancestors used to eat in the days of the temple. The Bible says it is the sacrifice of the Passover unto the Lord, who did pass over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt when he smote the Egyptian and spared our homes.
The matzah is a reminder of the haste in which our ancestors left Egypt. The Bible says, "And then the dough which had been brought from out of Egypt, they baked into cakes of unleavened bread." For it had not leavened, because they were thrust out of Egypt, and they could not tarry, nor had they prepared for themselves any provisions.
And we all know how binding matzah is, and we all know that matzah might be the solution to the toilet paper crisis that we all now have. Just saying, the maror is a reminder of the bitter life our ancestors led in Egypt. Maror in Hebrew means bitter. The Bible says they made their lives bitter with hard labor in mortar and brick and in all manner of work in the field.
May we, in recalling Pesach, matzah, and maror, fulfill the words of our sages. In every generation, each person should regard himself as though he personally had been freed from Egypt.
And in the generations to come, they'll tell the story of Passover 2020. As we remember the slavery of our ancestors in Egypt, we rejoice tonight as free men and give thanks for our freedom. Okay. Time to have a second cup of wine. We would recite Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Borei Pri Hagafen again. Okay? And traditionally, we've finished the first part of the Seder, and we're ready for the meal. I don't have any meal here. Okay? So you go and have your meal, turn me off, come back, have your third cup of wine. When you have your third cup of wine, you open your door for Elijah. Okay? Open the door for Elijah for those to come in. This is the cup of Elijah, named after a great prophet who lived in the Holy Land many years ago. He fought for righteousness and justice, and because of this, his name is always connected with the time when all men will deal kindly with one another and all will live in peace. This special cup for Elijah is to remind us that his spirit is with us on this night when we speak of freedom, and that it must always dwell in our midst. We open the door to welcome him in, as we would welcome anyone who comes to share the Seder meal with us. Okay? As we get towards the end of the Seder, we would continue with Eliyahu Hanavi. I hear Barbara's voice again. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Agiladi, Bimhera b'yameinu, Bimhera b'yameinu, Yavo aleinu, Mashiach b'David. Okay, and then the fourth cup of wine, and we would say next year in Jerusalem, but actually I would want to say next year back in the fountains, where we would be together, God willing, healthy, safe, calluses on our hands, maybe from playing golf, tennis, all the good things that we're here for. And I hope that in some small way, we've made Passover a little bit more traditional for you and a little bit of a guide for you to conduct or embellish your own Seders by. Susan's pointing to God Bless America. At this time, that's probably appropriate to hear a duo of God Bless America, because God has blessed America, and we hope with all our hearts that we'll continue to bless America. God bless America. land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless Susan. I'm not Stanley DeBell. I'm not, you get what you get. Okay, this is not doo-wop. God bless America. God bless you. God bless all of us. I feel like Tiny Tim now in Christmas Carol. And please, everybody, a good Yontif, a good Passover, and only good health in this troubled time. Thank you.